Hi everyone, this is my presentation. I entitled it Beyond the Lines, God's Design for Cross-Cultural Leadership. So to start off, I just wanted to highlight on what is the significance of cross-cultural leadership. Why do we need to learn it? So in Dr. Hummel's analysis of unity and diversity, she emphasizes that the world is becoming more and more globalized each day, and we have reached a level of interdependence in which everyone needs and must work together in order to achieve goals. That said, we as believers of today, as leaders of today, it is important for us to understand the type of world that we live in and God has called us into. It doesn't entail that leaders now should find and create a whole new set of standards of leadership, but rather God actually calls for his followers to always go back to his word that is always, it will never fade away. It's timeless. And as Dr. Hummel highlights in her analysis, the Bible is not just a mere book where we find religious instruction. It's the exact source that all men should always build their foundation on in order to understand the world that we live in and our place in it. And so, on the next slide, I just wanted to go back to that video that we saw of explaining what is culture, and the model that we saw there is the iceberg model. And in this model, it explains to us that the visible part, kind of like the superficial part, that's just it. It's just a small portion, small superficial portion of it, and it could be fashion, food, language, which are essentially like the first thing anyone sees when they encounter a new culture. And what this iceberg model encourages us to do is that understanding that beneath that superficial level, there's a not so visible components that shapes a person's or a culture's perceptions and behaviors, and this could include like their values, their perceptions, etc. And so in Calligary's book, she highlights here that cultural differences, it's not just experience when we're in a different country. Cultural differences can be experienced wherever we may be. It is multi-layered, it's multifaceted. If you can remember the color metaphor that she used with the primary colors, the secondary colors as the subcultures. And so she emphasizes basically that there are a lot of societal agents out there. But one example that I did want to bring our attention to is her example on India, and specifically India's history with the caste society. By definition, the caste system is basically where birthright determines a person's status in life, regardless of how hard you work. If you are born into what is considered in that system as low class, that defines your status quo in life. And according to an article, although this system has been abolished during the past few decades in India, caste identities still remain strong, and someone's last name is almost always an indication of what caste they belong to. Um, at the very bottom of that caste society that India had, they were called the untouchables. They were like the street cleaners. You could not be found if you were in any other caste system. You could not be found hanging out with this group of people. They were literally like social outcasts. And I just wanted to draw our attention to this word marginalized or social outcast, which by definition is to relegate to an unimportant or powerless position within a society or group. Needless to say, history has shown that marginalizing or treating people as outcasts has been evident throughout the course of time. But going back further into the history, during the biblical times, social outcast and marginalization within the Jewish society has been present ever since then. And so we actually see a biblical parallel of marginalization that we have seen in recent, decades way back then. And some of these social outcasts in Jewish society were tax collectors, women. Certainly, it was a patriarchal society. Like women were not allowed to like formally learn in synagogues. Um, Sinners, lepers, and Samaritans. This was the type of society that Jesus came into to do his radical earthly ministry. And so, what did Jesus do? The main passage that we're going to be referring in this specific presentation is the book of Luke, in which he shows us how Jesus exemplified cross-cultural leadership in a society that was broken in so many ways, plagued by exclusive laws, traditions, and ethnic pride. And so just to provide a little bit of background on the book of Luke, the author is Luke, and scholars say that the Acts of the Apostles have also been ascribed to Luke as the author due to having the similar dedications to Theophilus, the commonality in writing styles, and the fact that he was the only traveling companion of Paul who Paul mentioned in his letters that could have authored the we section of Acts, considering the consistency in geographical movements compared to his other missionary companions at the time. And so at the very beginning, Luke notes in his specific writing of the gospel that this is a careful account of the events of the life of Jesus during his earthly ministry, and that he gathered it thoughtfully from ministers of the word and first-hand witnesses. We also find that Luke was a physician based on Paul's address to him in Colossians, where he called him the beloved physician. And scholars have said that Luke's attribute as a physician served well in creating a reliable account of the gospel, being trained as a careful observer. And so, in one article that I found, in an overview of Luke, the author says there that Luke's interest in people in his writings, it's so evident. And this is demonstrated by a lot of the unique materials that we find in the Gospel of Luke, some of which are Zacchaeus, the tax collector. This is his story is only found in the book of Luke. And other ones is, we know the woman who poured perfume in Jesus's feet. We find that in all the gospel, but Luke was the only one who specified that this was an immoral woman. And another unique material found in Luke is the exact conversation that Jesus had with the robbers while he was being crucified. That exact conversation is only found in Luke. And another is the parable of the Good Samaritan, of course. And so when looking at the Gospel of Luke as a whole, there is this blunt emphasis of Jesus's intentional ministry to those who were considered as social outcasts. And so readers see on another wonderful portrayal of Jesus that is unique to the other gospels. Like while the Gospel of Matthew emphasizes Jesus as the king and Mark portrays Jesus as a servant, Luke in his writings demonstrates Jesus as the Son of Man who came to seek and to save the lost. And so this became the main passage of Luke. The great message that is now seen in this gospel is that Jesus came to earth to save all of humanity, regardless of their status or stations in life, which is such a clear cross-cultural message and posture in his leadership to all Jews and Gentiles alike. And so, to dive deeper in how we can see this radical ministry of Jesus exemplifying this type of leadership, we'll look at the parable of the Good Samaritan. To have a better understanding of this history of Jewish versus Samaritans, we take a look at the origins of where it came from. Essentially, Samaritans were basically a group of people who were considered as a half-breed race, coming from Jews who intermarried with the Assyrians when the Assyrians captured the northern kingdom of Israel in 721 BC. Gonzalez, in one of her roundtable research, she explains that the purity laws, according to Jewish customs, prohibited these Jews from associating with Samaritans, as they considered them as a source of defilement and moral impurity. And so in consequence, the Samaritans, in turn, they also rejected Jewish boundaries and traditions, and they even made their own rival temple on Mount Gerizim, where they worship, and they named it Zeus Sanctuary, who is like the friend of strangers, is what it was. And so the centuries of tradition and hatred in history, we see Jesus in the midst of this, in his radical ministry, crossing beyond the lines of culture, gender, race, status, and so much more. So in this parable of the Good Samaritan, we see a Jewish lawyer come up to Jesus and asking him how he can get eternal life. Now, Jesus, being aware that he was, knowledgeable in Jewish law, he made him quote from the Torah by asking back, so what is written in the law? And then the lawyer said, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, with all your strength and your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. And then after Jesus telling him, yep, you're right, go and do likewise. But the lawyer was not satisfied. Wanting like some self-justification, he further asked Jesus who his neighbor is. He wanted to like assert like some racial prejudice. Now, Jesus shares the parable of the Good Samaritan, in which, as a lot of us know, it's where we see a wounded man on the road who was just robbed, and he was like on his road from Jerusalem on the way to Jericho. And we see in the first part the first one was a priest who comes by, sees the man, but just passes through. And then the next one was a Levite who also sees the wounded man, but just passes through. And Bible scholars note that Jewish laws and their customs prohibited the touching of a corpse, as this would defile them and would have to go through like purification rituals before they could go to ceremony. And the man on the road looked to be dead. And so they were saying that was likely why they just like passed through the man. And going back to the parable, finally, when the Samaritan man comes, he not only reaches out to the wounded man, but he tends to his wounds. He brings him to an innkeeper, gives him money to further care for the man, and even gives his word to come back to pay more if needed. So Jesus then asked the lawyer who the good neighbor was, and the man answered, the one who showed him mercy. And notice how he didn't even say the Samaritan. Scholars are saying that this is like, him still trying to be a little bit like resistant, and saying the one who showed him mercy. And so that's when Jesus said, you go and do likewise. So from this parable, a Jewish lawyer, hearing about two exalted members in his